Good morning and welcome. Welcome to our visitors. Very delighted that you chose to spend this time with us this morning. And welcome to all of you watching online. If you're only joining us now, I'm Reverend G. I'm the minister here at the Unitarian Universalist Church in Portage. And thank you for joining us. And I also want to thank every single one of you who are contributing to making this Sunday morning time together possible. It takes a lot. Those of you who are new may or may not know, we have a bunch of people watching on Zoom, on Facebook Live, so we have a very hybrid congregation, and it is so every single Sunday. And I'm assuming because it's Labor Day weekend, many have chosen to stay at home anyway. So welcome, welcome, welcome. I always enjoy giving talks on theological subjects. It's not because I am a believer per se, but because I like to look at the historical background, and I like to look at all the connections and how belief systems were formed and how they affect our lives today. In 2006, in Kearney, New Jersey, a teacher of history in a high school went off on a tangent. Something's wrong here. Hold on. So in Kearney, New Jersey, a teacher, can you hear me? Okay. A teacher went off on a tangent and said things like evolution and the Big Bang Theory are unscientific, that Christianity is the only way, and accepting Jesus as your personal Savior and Lord is the only way to heaven, and if you don't, then you know where you're going, meaning to hell. There was a Muslim girl in the room and pointed at her, said, you see, you have no chance, it's too late for you. And a student recorded this and sent it to the New York Times. And it spurred a debate on, what just happened here? Does this teacher have a right? He has his Second Amendment right to express his beliefs. This is freedom of speech. He should say whatever he wants to say. And so the debate was about that, and then the ACLU got involved. It was a big deal in 2006. And then Neil deGrasse Tyson wrote a letter to the editor, and I'm paraphrasing, I'm not quoting directly, but he said something like, I think those of you who talk about the Second Amendment, freedom of speech here, are kind of missing the mark. This teacher also said that Noah's Ark had dinosaurs on there. And he said, this whole conversation is kind of missing the mark. The real issue here is that a ignorant, scientifically illiterate person was allowed into the ranks of teachers. That is really the problem. So sure, we live in a free country and we have the right to say whatever the heck we want to say. It's just, you can't say it everywhere. Like, you can have a belief system as a person, you can believe flat earth, you can believe that science is all bogus. It's a problem when you become a politician, that's your belief system, and you base your policies on these belief systems. Because if your beliefs are skewed, say you believe the earth is flat, from then on, every decision you make is simply wrong. So every step you take from then on is wrong. So for you to be able to make policies, is a mistake for the rest of us. It wrongs all of us. It creates a problem. Now, if you think that belief systems really don't matter, that your religion really doesn't matter, then let me give you an example. In the 8th, 9th, and 10th century, do you know what was the center of culture and science where it was? It was Baghdad. Baghdad. They had a caliphate who was very open to science, very willing to be on the side of progress. So, for instance, words like algebra, algorithm, Arabic numbers, that's when they were invented. These are Arabic inventions. When the Twin Towers were hit, George W. Bush gave a speech, and he said something about our God who named the stars. And he was justifiably wrong when he said that, because there's pages and pages and pages of stars that have Arab names. Exactly because in the 8th, 9th, and 10th century, Baghdad was the center of culture and science. Jews, Christians, scientists, doubters. Back in the day, they didn't have a name for atheists, they called them doubters. They all flocked to Baghdad because the environment was conducive for them to come together and debate and talk, and progress was possible. Now, things happened. Those were volatile times. Well, they still are in that region. But the Mongols and the Turks came and attacked, and so the Mongols took over Baghdad. And always, even though it was a center of culture and science, it's still human beings. And you know how we are. We are prone to give in to fear. And then we want to also understand, how is it possible that the Mongols could just come and take us over? And it was a violent war, and many died. And you know, wars are not fun. It's a lot of casualties. And then Al-Ghazali, a Muslim cleric, rose to power. Arguably, he's the second most important Muslim cleric after Muhammad. And so, of course, he said, well, we got to look at our relationship with our God. Much like today, when something, a natural disaster happens, you can always count on the right, the fundamentalist Christians, to blame the gays. It always happens. So same thing, because human beings lived then too, the same instincts took over, and who should we blame? What is the problem here really? So he introduces Sharia law. He doubles down on Islam, religion. The most important thing that he says, manipulations with numbers are of the devil. Manipulations with numbers are of the devil. And it just completely ended this 3 century of tremendous progress, of scientific discovery. And they have never recovered. So today, in 2022, we have about 2 billion Muslims in the world. Guess how many Nobel Prize winners? 3. There are more if you count the Peace Nobel Prize, but for science, there's 3. One of them is a co-winner. 3. Now, there's about 14, nearly 15 million Jews in the world. How many Nobel Prize winners? It's 25% of all Nobel Prize winners are Jews, which is wonderful. We celebrate. But imagine if Muslim world hadn't created the environment that they did with Islam, with doubling down on just Islam, imagine what they could have contributed scientifically with the base that they all, with the headwind. I mean, they were ahead of the world. And we don't have that contribution today. So now let's look at the tendencies of today in this country. Right? You are aware of that. You're watching the news. You see what they're doing. They're burning textbooks. They want to say that science is hocus pocus and the Bible is the actual thing. Now remember, throughout history, there were scientists who tried to prove that the Bible is right. And so they would go and try to prove that whatever information they gleaned from the Bible is true. And they always ended up with the wrong results. So they had to abandon that thinking. Because if you base your decisions on the wrong thing from then on, you're wrong every step of the way. So you believe flat earth. What is one of the worst things that we glean from the Bible? In my opinion, is this, that we decided that the human is at the top of every life form. It's the most important, most sacred life form. Now, if you believe that, then obviously your decisions will reflect that. So that means you will subdue every other life form. And of course, if the planet you don't believe is alive, you will subdue it even more than any other life form. So when you believe that creation is human-centric, from then on, every decision you make is what? Is wrong. Because it isn't. We just happen to be a little bit different than other human forms. But if the little b goes, this amazing human life form is dead for sure. So if you believe that creation is human-centric, from then on, every decision is wrong. Then the other belief is that, oh, well, the earth is the center of creation, right? So for the longest time, in fact, did you know that 1 out of 4 Americans don't know what spins around what? Earth, sun. They don't know which one. Which one? 1 out of 4. That's 25% of our entire population has no idea how that goes. Galileo said, and Galileo knew, he was a deeply religious man. And he studied the stars, and he was a devout Catholic. And for him, he was very conflicted about it, because there was the Bible, there were the teachings of the church, and he is one of those scientists who was trying to prove that what the church says is true. And then he watched the stars and the skies, and he realized, oh, wait, it's not true that the sun rotates around the earth. It's actually the other way around. So he was very conflicted about it, and then he famously said, the Bible tells you how to go to heaven and not how the heavens go. The Bible tells you how to go to heaven and not how the heavens go. He was deeply conflicted about it, but still science won, right? And so we are talking about the inclination in this country. Like, we're burning textbooks. In Texas, they want to bring religious education back into school and make that the most important education. And, well, I mean, we see what is happening in this country. And it's a problem. And then if we think that we don't know where that could lead, we know quite well where that leads, because we have already the precursor. So if we look at the world of Islam, look, they used to be the leaders of thinking in the world, and today they are not. So if we think that if we base our education strictly on religion and still could play any significant role in the world, we are delusional. It's not going to happen. For instance, you know the God particle, the boson-Higgs particle that was discovered not that many years ago? Where was it discovered? Well, in Switzerland. Why was it discovered in Switzerland? Because our Congress decided not to fund that project. And the Swiss said, we will fund it. So you don't fall back all at once. You just fall back little by little till you are no longer relevant. Now, of course, there's nothing wrong with not being relevant. I guess we can choose not to be relevant. I just don't know why. I don't know why we would do that. When we can be leaders in science and in thinking, and we can be leaders of progress, why wouldn't we want to be that? Especially since we have had all this progress in this country, since we have been very evolved and strong thinkers. Why would we devolve? I don't know. I just don't see the point of that, personally. Now, I told you about how back in the 8th, 9th, and 10th century, doubters would flock to Baghdad because the term atheism hadn't yet come around, hadn't been used yet. So when does that happen in history? It happens, now remember, what the Christians say about God. God of love, I don't know. I have seen evidence of love in people. I have most certainly seen evidence of love in dogs. I mean, undoubtedly. Unconditional love. I don't know that God is love, and I don't know that there is a God, period. So in my thinking, you know, I'm quite willing to question that. I wrestle with that. Also, this God watches over you. Like even one hair, it says in the Bible, not even one hair can fall from your head without this God knowing and allowing it. So now, in 1755, Portugal, Lisbon, All Saints' Day, November 1st, 9:40 a.m. It's a very devout Catholic country, very devout. So devout that the Inquisition is really strong because the Catholics are at power. They're burning witches left and right, and the righteous church is all powerful in Portugal. So it's 9:40 a.m., All Saints' Day. They flock to churches because that's what they do. And they're devout. And they're worshiping this God who knows even about one hair from our head and wouldn't allow it to fall if it wasn't in his plan. And deep in where the Atlantic and the Pacific are meeting, the tectonic plates are shifting. And it causes an earthquake, 8.5 magnitude on the Richter scale. And it shakes all of Lisbon's. And where are people? In churches. And what are churches in that day? They are the tallest buildings. What happens to these churches? They collapse one after the other. 80% of all structures in Lisbon collapse. And then the earth opened up 2 miles deep and swallowed people, animals, buildings. It's hell that just broke loose on these worshiping Christians, Roman Catholic Christians. So they run to the port because that still seems to be a safer place. Also, it offers the possibility of getting away because the earth has turned on them. Except when they reach the port, 20-foot tall tsunami waves come at them. And that swallows them and takes them out to sea. And then imagine all these buildings where the servants can't go to church because they're preparing the feast for all the nobles and all the people who have servants. Candles, turnover, fireplaces. So it's the earth swallows them, the sea swallows them, and then the fires come from these candles that were overturned. So all the elements are eating them up alive. It is believed that on that morning, in about 5 hours, 50 to 80,000 people died. 80 to 85% of all structures were completely leveled or disappeared into the earth because these huge cracks opened up. It changed philosophy and philosophical thinking from henceforth in Europe. Voltaire looked at this and he said, well, either this God of the Bible, he is either not almighty, like they say, and if he's almighty, he is so evil. He is not all good. So, what is it? And atheism is born in the aftermath of this tremendous disaster. In fact, the tsunami didn't just affect Lisbon, it affected even Brazil, which happened to be a colony of Portugal, and Morocco, and a lot of other places, but Lisbon was really affected. So philosophy and the thinking of philosophers is changing in the aftermath of this tremendous tragedy. Imagine if you believe that this is intelligent design, our world, right? So it's intelligent design, where goodness and love are the name of the game. From then on, every decision you make is wrong. Because there's a lot of stupid design too. Cancer, pretty stupid design. Infant mortality, stupid design. All kinds of ailments, pretty stupid design. If you go to space, everything wants to kill you. But truth be told, if you were dropped on probably 80% of this earth, you would die pretty soon. You wouldn't know how to survive. This earth wants to kill you. All the extinct species, the earth is not nearly as good and as loving. This whole design is not nearly as good and loving as we think it is. In fact, Freya told me some time ago that she's been watching the show, was it Cosmos? And that she's scared. Nova, that's it, Nova. Because she's realized that everything around us is actually quite volatile. It's a miracle that we are able to create these centers of population where we make life as possible as it is. So our theology matters. It matters because it informs every aspect of our lives. So, believing that this creation is human-centric, in my opinion, big mistake. It's just not true. That it's earth-centric, I think also not true. The earth is not, we know this scientifically now, it's not the center of the universe. That religious beliefs we hold can change cultures, and we can never recover from it. Like the Arab world has to this day not recovered from Al-Ghazali's proclamation that manipulations of numbers are of the devil. Bad theology creates bad ecology, creates bad sociology. Bad theology matters. Okay, but what about then, what's uplifting about this? What is with this whole dooms thingy going on? So, bad theology also creates a lot of division. Have you noticed that? So, bad theology says gays are less. Bad theology says if you are trans, you're going to hell, might as well kill you now, give you a head start. Bad theology is racist. Bad theology supported slaverism. Bad theology is misogynist. You know all of that. I don't have to list it. So it matters. But then, what is our saving grace? Like if you walk away today from here, besides knowing what bad theology, how much bad it can do, what can you take with you that maybe gives you a little bit of hope? I like that. So, one another. This is what science tells us. These are the building elements of space. Hydrogen, and it's in this order. Hydrogen, helium, carbon, nitrogen, and a lot of other things. But these are the most important main building blocks of space out there. Now, what are your building blocks? What are the most prevalent elements in your body? Hydrogen, not helium. Carbon, nitrogen, and a lot of other. But the most important are hydrogen, carbon, nitrogen. You are made of star stuff. You and the cosmos may present differently, but you're one. There is no separation. There's also no ranking here. One is more important than the other. All are important. Balance is of utmost importance. So if we had the mistaken idea that creation is human-centric, we must undo it and now attend to the most vulnerable life form that we have harmed and bring it back to health, to balance. And then tend to the next one and the next one and the next one, understanding that we are all star stuff, all of us. Not just humans, all animals, the entire earth, all of it. Our saving glory is not separation, is not division, it is not ranking. It is recognizing and honoring that we are all one, that we belong, and we all are saved together or fall together. So which one is it gonna be? And we do have a say. We must elect people into politics whose belief systems we check. And the question shouldn't be whether you believe in God and what church do you attend, but I want to know that will that belief affect your policy making? And if it does, you're out. It shouldn't be. Because whose God, whose belief system should gain voice and power in policies? I say nobody's. Let science, reason, and a knowing of oneness be our guiding principle. And then, if we need some other belief system for our own spirituality, let it be. But never let that separate us and divide us. For we are all star stuff. We're all one. And so it is.